All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Greetings all. It is terrific to have everyone in the mix. We've got a great show, and especially the guests that are stopping through. David Cay Johnston, the Pulitzer Prize winner, will be here in the second hour. And Tom Arnold, the comedian, and he's become sort of a political firebrand. He comes through in the first hour. So I'm looking forward to a visit with Tom. He's one of my favorite people with whom I never spend time, but I love seeing him and talking to him. It's been a while, and I'll get caught up with him on his wild ride, and now he has a regular podcast. He does it with former KGO talk show host and colleague of ours, Chip Franklin. So that's very cool. So I'm looking forward to a couple of moments with Tom at the bottom of this hour. Kim is here.
Kim, how are you?
And Tony is here. He's not well today,
Thanks, Tony.
which is really not cool. Yeah, we think maybe he's got a touch of that COVID. You know, the new and improved COVID. Yeah, we're not sure yet. Yeah, we haven't.
Around too many people Saturday.
Yeah, you know,
40,000 at that concert.
He likes those concerts, and that oftentimes can be a transmissibility land.
Mass spread, yeah.
I am well aware of the bizarre, eerie quality that today has taken on as a result of a guilty verdict in the Hunter Biden gun charge trial. The President of the United States, Joe Biden, his dad, has made it clear that he's not going to pardon Hunter Biden. He made those remarks at the D-Day memorial. He was in a conversation, a network interview with him, during which he was asked, will you pardon your son if he's found guilty? He said no. So now that the guilty verdict has been handed down, one has to ask, will Hunter Biden actually get jail time for this? Again, he has been found guilty of checking a box, and I don't mean to reduce it to that, to saying essentially by checking a box that I am not on drugs and I'm not addicted to drugs as I am buying this weapon. The first thing that you may be struck by in the United States of guns is that there would be any such question at all. I mean, if you've got the money, here are the guns, and we don't care. What is it, an AR-15, a handgun, whatever. Here you go. But there is such a question, and there is such a form, and when you lie on it, it is a federal offense. So I remind you, this is not nothing. He could actually do real time for this. We'll talk to David Cay Johnston about that likelihood. But back to the first point I was making, which is that his dad has said, hey, I'm not going to pardon the kid. I mean, I say the kid. To Joe Biden, he's a kid, right? Mm-hmm. And this is a child that has struggled with addiction, and many American families and many families worldwide know the power of addiction, the sadness, the darkness of addiction. And obviously, Hunter Biden's life is it's essentially every example one could likely imagine of how dark it can get when you're addicted to crack cocaine and beyond. So we'll talk to David about the likelihood of two things. One, him doing time. And two, his father, the president, reversing his position on whether or not he'll hand down a pardon. Joe Biden is an institutionalist, as we've discussed in many ways in the context of other things. He is loath to do things that in any way undermine the rule of law. But if his son were sentenced to do time, might he then hand down a pardon? And by the way, there's nothing illegal about a pardon. Joe Biden could hand down a pardon for Hunter on this gun charge, and it would actually be more understandable than Donald Trump handing down a pardon for Steve Bannon, who defrauded followers and those who were donating to a fund to build a wall, donated millions of dollars and defrauded them out of all that money. He was found guilty, and Donald Trump pardoned him. So, although Steve Bannon is like a son to Donald Trump, I got to give you that, but I would say one might understand it. Now, I'm not endorsing it one way or the other. I'm just making the point that it becomes understandable in the broader context. So we'll talk to David about that. And we'll ask Tom about it too, So Trevor Starr in Hollywood says right-wingers must be disappointed by the Hunter verdict. Now they can't say, see, Trump guilty, but Hunter gets off, rigged. Yeah, it is an awkward time for those who are claiming that the justice system is weaponized and rigged. You've got the son of the president found guilty on gun charges. You have 2 U.S. senators, both of whom are Democrats, being tried in court for corruption. One of them in a Manhattan court not far from where Donald Trump was being tried. So all I would say is that was torture to begin with, and certainly the events of this week and the last few weeks make that even more sort of a bankrupt notion. Kelly Malloy with a $5 super sticker
Big
to start us off. And Trevor, by the way, big shout out to you for that super chat.
Big shout out.
I also saw, I thought, Stan Pollock, my favorite CPA. Big shout out to Stan Pollock.
Big shout out.
Mark, on your recommendation, my wife and I watched Hitman on Netflix last night. Thanks. We both enjoyed it, and great recommendation. I'll listen for other suggestions. Cool. Well, I'm glad Stan liked it. Stan and wife enjoyed Hitman. I do recommend it on Netflix. Courtney gave us the true story of the actual hitman, the actual fake hitman. It's based on a guy who was really designed to handle those sort of retail hit requests that came from the public, and then those people were oftentimes busted. Anyway, the movie is based on that real fake hitman, and we detailed the real story yesterday. Very, very cool that you enjoyed it. And there are many more recommendations where those came from. After Joe is reelected, he should pardon Hunter, says Mike.
He won't. He said 2 times now, he said he wouldn't, and that he would accept whatever the jury's decision was, whatever the court decision came to. That's him showing belief in the justice system in the country.
Yeah. Look, I want to say something. I don't mean to be stirring the pot, but I understand how you can have problems with the justice system. It doesn't always work fairly. But some of these cases are pretty open and shut, and this one seemed as though it was. And so I think it's this wouldn't be a case, for example, to make some broader point about how unfair the justice system is. I mean, again, this seemed really open and shut. Michael Snyder saying, wow, who could have told you to check out Hitman? Michael did recommend it even before I did. That's exactly right. So I just kind of emphasized it, Michael. So, yeah, undercover informant. That's exactly what, that's what he is.
Really hard position for a parent to be in. When you have the power to make something easier for your child or to fix something like that, and you can, but you have to step back and you don't do it. I mean, that's just a hell of a decision. I feel for him. I really do.
Right. Well,
Kim, how are you?
Well, I'll tell you the thing about this that makes it more difficult is that it happens in the context of a lawless former president who, is serving up pardons like a short order chef to those who are involved in overthrowing the government of the United States. I mean, he has really indicated that he's ready to pardon a lot of people who are involved in a coup attempt. I think when you're looking at that, it's in the shadow of all of that you have to make decisions of the sort that you're talking about. If it was your son, Kim, do you think you could, given the circumstance, what would you do?
It'd be really hard for me because I find myself even now when when I know that I can clear a path for them, or I can make their lives better, or I can help them in some way, sometimes that's not always the best move. Sometimes it's better to let them figure it out, right? So they become better able to deal with things in life.
Well,
But in a situation like this,
no.
oh, God, I can't even tell you, because I agree with what he's doing. I agree with that. You have to, if you're the president of the United States, you show you believe in the justice system, you believe in the way we do things. I get that, but that's your child, you know? That's hard. I can't even tell you. I can't put myself in that position.
Well, and I would say one thing that distinguishes this situation from perhaps one that you might deal with your actual children is that Hunter Biden is 54 years old. I mean, the idea somehow that you're going to teach him a lesson to show him the right way, I feel like that ship has sort of sailed. But I think it's informed by a lot of other things that are associated with your position as president of the United States. It's a very tough spot. I mean, I don't blame you for kind of passing on the question. Will any Trumpians, Debbie is asking, will any Trumpians recognize Biden as a man of integrity?
No.
Probably not, unfortunately. Thank you, Debbie. Exactly.
Big shout out.
I mean, it is true that right-wing media, if you watch right-wing media or listen to right-wing media at all, it is frustrating in the extreme how cherry-picked everything is. And I always say this in relation to the Democrats. You're not going to get credit for some kind of high ground you're taking where you're roasting your own. Merrick Garland was a perfect example. The Merrick Garland appointment as Attorney General was such weak sauce. It was like a make good for him being passed over for Supreme Court justice. And he slow walked the Jack Smith appointment. We've talked about this ad nauseum, and I won't go into any further retilling of that soil. But the reality is that Merrick Garland is an abomination. You don't get credit, though, for getting some attorney general in there who goes easy on the competition and really tough on you. The prosecutor who went after Hunter Biden, the special counsel, was appointed by Donald Trump. Do you think if Donald Trump ascends to the presidency, he would somehow keep on a special prosecutor appointed by Joe Biden? No. He's already shown you how he clears the deck of all Democrats and anyone with connections to the last administration. Anything that had even the rough scent of Obama on it was out. Any bill, any executive order that had any scent of Obama on it was reversed. Maybe Kim's headphones are a little bit high or something? I'm hearing an echo. I don't know what that is. But in any case, maybe, I don't know, Tony, you might be able to do something. But my point is simply that the Democrats always think that they're going to get credit somehow for keeping on the special counsel who actually had powers expanded. I'm talking about the one who went after Hunter Biden, had powers expanded under Joe Biden. He permitted that. Okay, so you're aiding and clearing the way for the prosecution of your own son. That's who Joe Biden is. That's who this president is, and that's who the Democrats are. They feel like, see, Republicans, look how tough we are on our own. As though the Republicans are going to turn around, wow, Democrats, you really are, you're right. You're right. We should all be tough like that on our own. You don't get credit for it, and it doesn't happen. So I'm not suggesting that you should game the system and hand out those pardons the way they handed them out under the Biden administration. And you can even argue under Democratic administrations that the pardon system is both flawed and sort of without any kind of boundaries. But just on the general point that, and I think Biden feels this way, that somehow I'll keep these people in place. I'm an institutionalist. That's the special counsel appointed by Donald Trump. I'm going to give him full powers to investigate my son, to prosecute my son. That's who Joe Biden was and is. And now you have your son, sir, brought to trial, found guilty. It's a pretty much open and shut case. I mean, there's chapter and verse about how addicted he was and what a dark chapter or few chapters these were in his life. And he had to relive it in a trial, and now he's found guilty. So all I'm saying is, Democrats, you don't get credit for being tough on your own. So you face a decision. In any case, that is a little bit on Hunter Biden. And here's the last eerie thing, and we'll revisit it with David Cay Johnston. Certainly will have some thoughts, and maybe Tom Arnold will have some thoughts. Mm-hmm. But the last eerie thing is that today, President Joe Biden is speaking at a gun safety talk, and it is one of the most bizarre ways in which the universe has lined up. And of course, he will be beleaguered, I suspect, by questions about and besieged by questions about the verdict with his son and whether or not he will honor his statement earlier that he will not pardon his son. So I'm looking to see if there is anything else. This is Joan says, I'm so sick of the Dems always wanting to be nonpartisan. Agree with you, 100%, Mark. Well, thank you. I'm for all for people who agree with me 100%. That is the top percentage, by the way, 100. So I'm very happy to welcome you into the fold.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I have a thought here, Kim. Mm-hmm. My thought is that you do some news, and that then we're joined by Tom Arnold, who is a special visitor, first-time visitor, and then we'll have David Cay Johnston, and probably after that, we'll have another newscast. So I'm just looking ahead and seeing a kind of busy day. The Alito revelations, which just expose by recording the sort of, frankly, it's a religious jihad. I mean, it's a Christian jihad that the Alitos on the high court are involved in. And we've talked about this for a long time, that this is the nation they want. Well, now there is that recording and a back and forth with the justice. And also there is recording of his wife speaking to her own, I would say, not only political agenda, but personal agenda. So you'll hear that as well. In fact, I'd like to play some of that, Tony, if we can, for David Cay Johnston in the second hour. So hopefully that'll all come together. Kim's News, Tom Arnold, David Cay Johnston, and more. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. It is indeed true, as Mark mentioned, a federal jury in Delaware has found Hunter Biden guilty on all 3 counts in his felony firearms trial. No sentencing date was set by the judge today after the verdict was announced. It is the first time in U.S. history that the child of a sitting president has been convicted of a federal crime. Now, President Biden says he accepts the outcome of his son Hunter's federal firearms trial. Again, the president's son convicted of buying and possessing a gun while being addicted to drugs in 2018. The president, in a statement, said he will continue to respect the judicial process as Hunter considers an appeal. Meanwhile, the outcome of this case is being called a step toward accountability, according to Kentucky Republican James Comer. Comer, leading the impeachment inquiry into President Biden, said the Department of Justice must investigate everyone involved in the Biden's alleged influence peddling scheme. Even in this case, can't just say, well done, right? Voters in South Carolina, Nevada, North Dakota, and Maine heading to the polls today for their primaries. While presidential primaries have wrapped up, the candidates for key down-ballot races will be decided. In South Carolina, Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace is being challenged by Catherine Templeton. Former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has endorsed Templeton after Mace voted to oust him from the speakership last year. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, Kevin McCarthy is getting back into it to, try to exact his revenge.
There's a new contract that's been reached between the Canadian government and the border agents, averting a strike that would have disrupted international travel. The union and the Treasury Board agreed on a tentative deal earlier today, meaning traffic and goods will continue across the Ambassador Bridge connecting Detroit and Windsor, Ontario. That bridge is one of the most important crossings in the country, carrying around 25% of all goods between the U.S. and Canada every year. Speaking of goods, drug shortages are at an all-time high. The first quarter of this year saw the United States' highest number of ongoing shortages, with 323 drugs in a deficit. That according to the American Society of Health System Pharmacists data, which started tracking those numbers in 2001. House Republicans are moving forward with efforts to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress. The House Rules Committee debating contempt resolutions against Garland as he has refused to turn over audio recordings of President Biden's interviews with the special counsel who led the president's classified documents probe. The committee's ranking member, Jim McGovern, said the efforts are only about trying to hurt President Biden politically.
Well, of course, that's true. But they still may have to turn them over. But
an animal rights group attempted to deface King Charles I's official portrait. King Charles' first official portrait, rather. Video shows members of the group placing Wallace's head from Wallace and Gromit, which is a cartoon, onto the head of the monarch. Officials say the artwork was not damaged because the photos were stuck on top of a protective glass casing. The group alleges animal cruelty at several farms certified by the Royal Society for the Protection of Animals, which is a British charity.
Oh, that's interesting, actually, because this... I'd suggest this king or this royal is a little more sensitive to such issues than maybe royals in the past, but I don't really know. And obviously, these activists probably do know. So,
the projected tallest building in the United States has been approved for unlimited height. Unlimited? Yes. Last week, the Oklahoma City Council approved a new zoning application for the Legends Tower in Oklahoma City, removing height restrictions. Plans for the build were approved in April, but several hurdles still need to be met, including a proposed digital signage spanning across all four of its towers. The Legends Tower will surpass One World Trade Center as the tallest building in the country, as well as make Oklahoma City the only metropolis outside of New York City and Chicago to have one of the top 10 tallest buildings in the United States. The plan is for the building to be 1,907 feet tall, making it the fifth tallest in the world.
Wow.
Now, see, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just throw in a few extra feet and go for tallest? I mean, you know how tall all the other buildings are, and you're still building. So add an extra floor and go for gold.
Maybe it was what do you think that is? A code restriction type thing, or?
There is no height limit. There is no code.
No.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
Well, maybe that's it. I don't know. That's weird.
I mean, they've just been given carte blanche to go for gold, right? So what are they doing?
Way.
I mean, it seems rather, I don't know, unambitious.
Yeah, you would say, come on, guys.
Fifth in the world. Come on.
Wow.
Just saying.
Yeah.
The Los Angeles City Council today is expected to rescind the requirement for all municipal workers to be vaccinated against COVID as a condition of employment. The council will also vote on an ordinance that would provide a pathway back to work for employees who were terminated or left voluntarily for when they didn't agree to get vaccinated. It's been more than a year since the city's coronavirus declaration of emergency was lifted. So we're done with that, and everybody can come back to work now. Los Angeles County's new LGBTQ plus commission meets for the first time today. The commission is charged with developing policy recommendations on laws that impact the LGBTQ communities. During a ceremony, Supervisor Hilda Solis is introducing the commission's executive director today. So it's a big step for Los Angeles County in that regard. Right? Yes.
Yeah.
California lawmakers are reconsidering their plan to charge digital companies for using news content. After pressure from Google, Facebook, and others, the original plan to pay news outlets based on impressions was scrapped in favor of one similar to what's on the books in Canada. This new plan, currently being debated, would charge a fee based on how many journalists the news outlet employs. Well, you employ one. I don't know what your fee would be. I don't think anything. Google and other tech giants had threatened to stop providing news content to California if users if the original plan became law. So now that's going to change, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
No, go ahead.
No,
Carry on.
your thoughts? I mean, you use the content a lot. What do you think?
Well, I don't steal content. I'm not taking content and reposting it for free.
No, but you use it. I mean, you read it. Right? Don't you use it?
Do, but I also pay for my content.
Right. I mean, that's why I'm not accusing you of anything.
No.
I'm saying.
I blame you.
No, I'm not. Kim, relax. I'm saying.
No, I'm just saying it doesn't pertain to me because I pay for my content.
All right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like if I was just
yeah.
taking it for free and turning around and using it, that would be one thing. But I'm paying journalists already, is how I feel about it.
Yeah, but again, I was just asking whether or not I wasn't saying you are someone who uses the content illegally or inappropriately. You do
Sure.
actually use it appropriately and legally, so you're paying for it already. So what I would think you would actually welcome others paying for content that then use or then they
yeah.
repost or reconstitute in some way.
Absolutely. Pay the journalists.
Yeah,
Sure.
there you go.
Yeah. Pay the journalists. You're going to see more and more journalists laid off and more publications, websites closing if you don't pay the journalists, because you can't just be an ad-only site. You've seen newspapers try to do these paywalls, and they lose subscribers, they lose publicity, they lose readership, and it's not sustainable. So you have to pay people. You have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you know, and I don't know if you've heard them, Mark, sonic booms are becoming more frequent in Southern California.
No, what's happening?
Well, residents who live south of Vandenberg Space Force Base in Santa Barbara County experience a sonic boom every time a rocket takes off. And lately, they've been setting the rockets off a lot. Launches are happening more often thanks to the busy schedule of SpaceX. The sonic booms are rattling the nerves of coastal residents and scaring the wildlife there. No plan, though, in the works to deal with the matter, and more rocket launches are scheduled through the end of the year and beyond. They keep throwing up those satellites, sonic booms.
Jeez,
I guess
man.
it's expected. The first couple times you hear it, maybe it'll freak you out, but now they're getting used to it. I don't know if you can get used to such a thing.
I hate that we have to get used to that, but apparently we do.
I guess that's the way life goes. This report is sponsored by Coachella Valley Coffee.
Oh my gosh! I've got the espresso going right now, fresh off the. Yes, let me just grab some. It's a double espresso, and it's spectacular. Somebody actually sent me, I meant to send it to you, Tony, a note. It was in post after hours trading in the comments. They sent a note about Coachella Valley Coffee and about what they like. I've tried the El Gato, they say. It's smooth, but not dark, because I think I mentioned that it was dark and rich the other day. And Kim mentioned that it's dark like my soul. It seems to be more of our heart. I forget what you said. I've tried the El Gato, smooth but not dark. It seems to be more of a medium roast, as is most of their coffee. They are really smooth with a clean finish. Thank you, Rev P369. If you haven't tried Coachella Valley Coffee, you will be so delighted. In fact, we have a discount code that will let you jump on in and buy as much as you want and get a 10% discount. Mark T at checkout is your discount code. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Everything is hand roasted there. They work so hard to get you the very best product. And Cliff, who's the Roast Master General, he is going to come on and join the show as a guest in the weeks ahead. I was talking to him, and we're just having to coordinate that. So get your coffee and tea questions ready. And you can see there they circle the darkness of the roast. There are also tasting notes in all of the different areas on the website. So CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Grab it. They're a sponsor. We appreciate you supporting our sponsors, but I can say without reservation, the best coffee I've ever had. and you can get 10% off at checkout. Mark T is your discount code. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
I just got my iced tea delivered to the office in what is a lovely thing by my husband. And mine this morning is my very favorite, which is the vanilla. Love it. So good.
I need a husband like your husband.
Don't you? I know.
Yeah.
I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
It's fantastic.
I come from regular stock.
There's a reason that this place is fun. Don't ever use that word.
What are the porn stars doing, Mark?
They pay me a lot of money for having attitude.
You cannot say you love your country.
What you say is the political dogma that they're trying to shove down our throats.
Oh, girl, baby girl, don't even play.
What the hell is going on in the United States of America?
Cuatro años más.
Put that coffee down.
I don't wear a mask for the same reason I don't wear underwear. Things gotta breathe.
Say what?
Do you have a secret talent?
You get nothing. Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
Let's talk about something important.
Out of time. Bye-bye.
It was great. I loved it. Did you really just do that?
What up, everybody? Thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing to this show. I think we're closing in on 35,000 subscribers, which for us in our little show that came out of a radio show in San Francisco is a pretty big number. So very excited that you could be, if you aren't already, one of our subscribers. You can subscribe for free, and that you've shared the show or shared various parts of the show, videos, shorts, etc. It helps us grow the footprint of the show. Now, we have a fork in the road because I'm supposed to be talking to Tom Arnold right now. What has happened to Tom Arnold? I don't know. I'll wait to hear from Kim, who kind of coordinates guests on the show for us. It is true. Daniel Martin, a big shout out.
Big shout out.
Next year's Mark's Madness is going to be great. Lots of new drops. It's true. We are picking up some new drops. And I think it's getting to be a new field and a competitive field. So thank you. While we wait for Tom, hoping he makes it, still David Cay Johnston is on deck in the next hour. Here is President Biden and his remarks in the shadow of the jury verdict, which was guilty in the gun trial of his son. Go ahead, Tony. You can take some of that. This is a gun safety address, which is eerily
The lows
bizarre.
are a bit low, but here.
The main reason I'm here to say, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. No.
Okay, you can see what's happening. I mean, first of all,
Folks, it's okay.
we'll listen for another second or two, but
They care. Innocent children have been lost. They make a point. Come on now.
yeah, he's going to get peppered by, that's okay, Tony, he's going to get peppered by that kind of thing. People in the crowd who are yelling things to him. He is, and again, this was just the way the universe lined up. He was speaking and scheduled to speak on gun safety, and it just happens that his son is found guilty and the verdict is handed down on this day, and it's a gun-related charge. So more about that. We talked about it a lot in the first half hour. We can touch on it with Tom if he wants to mention it, but David Cay Johnston will have some things to say about it in the next half hour. So for now, we'll leave him to his remarks, the president, and move on. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
I yield to no one in my love and regard for our next guest. Seldom see him, seldom interact with, but I follow him and his family quite closely through social media and through his podcast presence. How about it for the great Tom Arnold, everybody?
Oh, my God.
Look at you.
Look at Mark, the great Mark Thompson. You know, I was watching the program, your program yourself, that the speech that Biden has given at Moms Demand Action. Are you familiar with Moms Demand Action? The organization Shannon Watts started in her kitchen after a mass shooting. It's a great organization. I guarantee the people from Moms Demand Action are not booing him. I'm sure there is something else, but it's a great organization. I recommend checking them out. And, they work with Everytown now, which is another killer organization. So these guys are doing, it is weird, but I'm going to tell you this, being a recovering drug addict, we do terrible things. We drag people that care about us into terrible things. That's, it is important that we get it together. And the fact that Hunter Biden, you saw his whole family there, that's rare, because when you've done the things that he's done and some of us have done, there's nobody there with you because they're done. Because there's so much, we tarnish them, we tarnish ourselves, we are danger to society. And when somebody like Hunter Biden gets sober, which he's doing very well, that's a big deal. But the repercussions, I saw Patty Davis wrote a op-ed for the New York Times as a recovering person, just talking about honestly the stuff that could have gone terrible for all of us. We're sloppy. We put ourselves in situations. We put other people in situations. We're dangerous. We drive. We do all this stuff. But the grace of God, you get sober, but it's still there. The damage that you've done is still there, and we have to suck it up and deal with it. That's what
it's weird, Tom, because he has sobriety now, and he's dealt with, in fact, chronicled, as so many people who have struggled with addiction have, in book form and publicly, has chronicled so many of these dark places that he was as an addict. But now he had to sort of relive all of that in this courtroom, and the darkest times essentially were brought to life again, and now he gets this guilty verdict.
Yeah, but I think I've communicated with him and about our sobriety, and he is doing very well. It is the shame of having your daughter testify, your ex, your brother's ex, whatever. It's just a lot of tawdry stuff that you would like to bury. I would like to bury. But to me, as an addict, you gotta hear it. And to hear it in court is not ideal, because that's killing your dad and killing your mom and killing your aunts and uncles and killing, but they seem like they're very proud of where he is. He's lucky to be alive. There's no doubt, he was basically trying to kill himself, as we do. And there are consequences, and he may have to go to jail. That's what happens. You do it. He's grateful to be alive, and to hear that over and over. And people are talking about the Trump trial. He has to hear about having sex with a porn star while his wife was home with a little baby and had this other. And I will say, the people on the other side are like, that's not important. So in the one way, this was a very tawdry trial too, and the stuff that he got involved with and the stuff that he did, which he was like not ashamed of. He was doing it out publicly. He was videotaping himself at these worst moments. He wrote about it in his book. They used his book to convict him, that things that he said. So they're both not ideal situations, but I assume that we were going to handle it differently. Joe Biden is handling. He's like, I'm not going to pardon him. I'm not going to comment on the judge. I'm not going to comment on the jury. I'm not going to stand outside the courthouse screaming like a maniac and get my supporters and the other senators to come and stand behind me. And that's really that says a lot about Joe Biden. He loves his son. He unconditionally loves his son, and this is hard for him. But this is that's who he is. So
and that's what and Tom, at a time of the many moments when his son is dealing with the kinds of addiction that he was in the throes of, that love that you talk about, I mean, that's what families have to do as best they're able. They have to swallow hard and try to support their son or daughter and get through it.
Yeah, you got to get your head around what's going on. Like most people that are not addicts, they go like, "What is that? What does he do? What is this?" You know, it's scary, and you have to educate yourself. Well, this is what it is. And sometimes you got to do tough love. I've had my sister went to prison for federal prison twice. I've had brother-in-laws die in prison. It's a real deal. And as the brother, you're like, I don't want her to go to prison the rest of her life, but there are consequences, and hopefully she learns from those.
I remember with your sister, you tried to intervene a couple of times. You tried to help her, and it was just impossible to really. Ultimately, it worked out, but this is my recollection anyway, that you tried to sort of intercede on her behalf, and it was difficult.
Well, I wanted to support her, and as a recovering addict myself, I understand how terrible the disease is, and the kind of stuff you get yourselves into. That there's a documentary series about my sister called The Queen of Meth. Yeah, she was the biggest drug dealer in America, and people are like, "Was it embarrassing having your sister be a drug dealer?" And I'm like, "Not when I was doing drugs. It wasn't embarrassing. It was pretty handy." But then you have to, for the grace of God, and so I think that the thing is, a lot of Americans, I think 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10 families have somebody that are dealing with this disease. So we're more educated, we're hopefully more compassionate, but you do have to, even though you get sober, you got to step up, and there's consequences to your behavior, and you have to deal with that. So the families.
This is a weird overlap for you, though, Tom, because you are politically astute. You've actually had dealings with Donald Trump. You were on The Apprentice, and you also, as you said, you've lived addiction. So there's a weird overlap in this world of politics and what's being used politically. And now you have podcasts and platforms to express yourself about these things.
I'm going to give you I'll give you an even weirder one, Mark. In the 90s, Donald Trump Jr. got into a fight and was doing drugs and drunk and got arrested, and his dad kicked him out of the family. And his dad said, "You're cut off. You're cut off emotionally. You're cut off financially." And my friends and myself stepped up and took care of him and gave him support. And I, doing what I do, they took him to Maui where we go. They paid for everything, and I felt really bad for the guy. So, there are groups of younger people that I was, helping and leading and our little meetings, and he was one of those guys. And I said to him, your dad's an a-hole. I mean, but it's that old school. They don't get what this is, and I promise you, it's going to work out at the end. But you just got to get your shit together, man. And not worry about that. And so it's a very small world that we live in. I selfishly enjoy helping other people because it keeps me sober. It keeps me alive. And you have to give back. And a lot of times the people that I've helped come back and they end up helping me because there isn't a straight line, at least not for me. Get sober, straight line. Sometimes there's bumps in the road, and you don't want it. We shame ourselves enough. We don't need other people doing it, but I'm very grateful to be here and have these people. Anyway,
that's a great line. We shame ourselves enough. We don't need others to do it. That's a great line. I also wonder, did Don Jr. ever circle back around to you? And you had other dealings with him, didn't you?
No. Yeah, I mean, I had some bad dealings once his dad was the president, but no, it's but he's aware, and I did when, I wrote a couple of things to him when he was bagging on Hunter Biden and how I go, dude, that's you for the great, and that would be you to this day. And I said, you guys should be best friends right now, you and Hunter, because you have so much in common because your fathers are in this position and you're the son of, and you've had substance abuse issues. It seems like you would reach out to him and say, hey, if you want to talk privately or whatever, you'd be the perfect person to sponsor him, is what I'm saying. So, but you get caught up in the politics.
That's the way it would do in the movie. That's the way it would go down. It doesn't look like it's going down that way in real life.
Yeah. But on the other hand, the reason I could never be president, there are many reasons. Arrested for public nudity at an old folks home. And I've been to the Playboy Mansion with Donald Trump. I went to the Playboy Mansion with Donald Trump, and I used to say, but I wasn't the creepy guy. But I was a creepy guy because I went to the Playboy Mansion with Donald Trump because he wanted to introduce me to his new girlfriend, Tara McDougal. And she's very nice, and we meet. And then he's like, oh, by the way, my wife is here and my daughter. Let's all pose for a picture together. And they did. And I thought, he doesn't care. This guy doesn't care. And it's kind of funny that he doesn't care if he's that guy for the TV show, but he can never be president because he just doesn't care. And it's the people, he's never changed. It's the people, he's authentically awful. It's the people around him that used to have some kind of self-esteem or some kind of respect for law and order or the country or the Constitution. They've changed and they've just enabled him. So, that's what we're seeing now. It's very disappointing, but we have to do something about it.
God, that's a wild scene. Karen McDougal. Yeah. And you're saying that he let you, were you aware of the fact that he was seeing her as his girlfriend?
Yeah, he said he'd done the Best Damn Sports Show, period. And he said, hey, listen, I got a party at the Playboy Mansion for my vodka or my tequila or something. Will you come over there with me? And I go, well, yeah, I'll do that. You did the show. That'd be fun. He goes, I want to introduce you to my new girlfriend. So that's where I met her too. And she's got a buddy sort of, she was Playmate of the Year, I think. And he was seemed very nice, very cute. And then he is like, and you could Google, there are pictures of this. And he's like, oh yeah, Melania's here and my daughter. And then they ended up posing for pictures together. And I'm like, holy moly, man. This is bananas.
Now, let me just speak to, or ask you to speak to the thing that I mention from time to time, which is, I think it's demonstrably the case, that there is some, what is it? It's charisma, it's something with Trump. There's a dynamic to his personality, Tom, that makes him both media savvy and lovable by media. When I say lovable, I mean they love to cover him because he'll say anything, because he's authentic. I wonder if you can speak to that. Like when you're in his presence, do you get the secret sauce that he has that's brought him to this place?
Well, he's got two things. Like anytime he came on a sports show, the show started, he would go, okay, I just want to say the reason I'm here is because of Tom Arnold. And that gives you little tingles in your spine. You're like, wow, he's here for me. It's not for the other people. He's here for me. And he just said that publicly. I also think there's something about him that you feel sorry for him. And I don't care. You're like, he's a billionaire. He's whatever. He's got this thing. But there is something about him where you're like, but yet I kind of feel sorry for this guy. Like, and you also think, okay, and this happened with Roseanne and when he first came out and said Rosie O'Donnell was a big fat pig, I wrote to Roseanne and go, you got to stand up for our friend Rosie O'Donnell. And she's like, well, he never called me a big fat pig. And that's the thing. That's how you get, if you're a black man, if you're a woman, if you're whatever, you're like, yeah, but I'm the one that he likes me. So I'm not going to speak up about these other people. And that's a failure of your character. But you can see how people want to believe. I get why all these white people in Iowa, where I'm from, my own family, they're like, well, he's like us. He's speaking our truth. We want to say that we're better than the top black person. The lowest white person is still better than, it's a history in the United States. So as long as they're still better than Barack Obama, who he's, and this guy believes it. Like he's the guy that's going to lead us to the promised land. And then what'll end up happening is he destroys everything. And that group of white people, it's happened in this country many times, stays in the same place. They never move up. And the people of color, the women, the other people that didn't buy into this all move up a notch. And every generation, there's a group of white people that are like, oh yeah, he's speaking our truth. He's speaking our language. He cares about us. And they never get anywhere. They stay in the same place.
But you note, I think, appropriately, just a couple of minutes ago, when you used the word he's enabled, you note these enablers now who are very high profile. He essentially has a whole, major party that's enabled him to the point that he may win this election.
Yeah.
And he's also been enabled by members of Congress who are leading investigations on his behalf. I mean, they're essentially not even worrying about passing legislation. They're more concerned with continuing the jihad for Trump.
Yeah. Well,
it's an extraordinary thing.
They say that, like Mike Johnson, he says he's a Christian, super Christian, the Bible stuff. There's nothing about Trump that would indicate that, And the funny thing about Mike Johnson, he's him and his son, Mike Johnson, this always needs a second look. They're each other's pornography sponsors. They're monitors. They're the app where they follow him and his son's pornography. Can you imagine following your dad's pornography and being there for him? And then he also has a black son that he adopted before he got married that is the same age as him. And at first, when he had that black son and Trump started saying racist stuff, he's like, well, I could understand because I have a black son. Then now you don't see the black son. The black son's not in family pictures anymore. Like they're done with that. This stuff with Trump, they're so on board. I don't know if they think he's like Jesus or whatever they think, that the power, the money, they're like, I want that. So they've all sold their souls. People like Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, who said, and Liz Gabb, who said honest things about Trump at one point, where he's disgusting. He lies every time he opens his mouth, because Trump went after their families and their wives. And they said he's going to ruin a party, which is really true. But you see those guys molding into being Trump puppets. And that's pathetic and sad. And we really need to stay on it. And it's, one day we'll look back and go, what did those guys, why did they do that? And it's because they want to be on the team. They think that their job in the Senate or House of Representatives is the most important job in the world. They don't want to lose it. And it's not. And there are people that will lose their whole careers to do the right thing. And we got to follow them because it's not that important of a job. They're following a reality star. As you know, in Hollywood, the lowest form of the lowest rung is not movie star. It's reality star. Now, reality stars get a lot more respect than they used to. But when Trump started, people were like, yeah, he's not a real star. He's a reality star. It's like,
well, he was never in New York. He was never really a real rich guy. I mean, he was a failed businessman viewed as kind of a joke who was always trying to get into legit high society in New York. And honestly, it was the success of The Apprentice, the show that you were on, and Mark Burnett.
I was not on The Apprentice. I was not.
I thought you were.
No? And Mark Burnett would call, and I'd say, I can't get my head around what the reward is this show. They have for a lot of money. They do a favored nation, $75,000, but then they're like, well, NBC, you write a script for NBC, we'll give you another $300,000, we'll do this. And I really needed the money. And I thought, but what is at the end of this? You're his apprentice? What is the payoff? And I got a total respect for other people that did it. They did it to try to make it good. And, I'm not sure that it was good for them at the end of the day, but they did it. I get that. We do things. But there was no payoff, but they did do a good job of convincing people. So he runs for president.
I didn't realize that you weren't on it. So they romanced you, but you never actually did it.
Oh, yes. They called many times. He called many times. And the last time he called, when I got off the phone, I said, my wife at the time said, why did you say that? I go, say what? You said, I'll see you in New York, Donald. I go, because I told her, I'm not doing this. I'm going to tell him to his face or whatever. And he started smooth talking, and I didn't realize I'd done that. So immediately I called my agent, like, get me out of this. Apparently, I just said to Donald Trump, I'll see you in New York, because you want to please him that much. So I understand why people do that. They go.
I don't know if you've read the Michael Cohen book or even excerpts of it. I suggest that you just crack it a little bit, because a lot of it's going to resonate with you, then land with you in just the way you were just talking about, which is that you want to please him. Cohen talks about the fact, I don't know why I got so into this guy, but he said, I was happy. He said, he apologizes like on every third page.
Yeah.
And
well, he should. Michael, I realized early on when I was doing the Trump stuff, I got to get to know Michael Cohen. He hasn't flipped yet. I have no idea. Like, I knowed him because Trump had him hire a lawyer for a guy from The Apprentice to sue me because I was saying bad things about this guy and his relationship. So I knew him on the negative side. But once I realized that he'd been raided, I said, I got to go to New York and get in his face and make sure he flips. And I flew there in I think June 22nd of 2018. He still wasn't there. He took pictures with me. He posted them. He knew Trump excuse me, wouldn't like that. Giuliani was calling him. You could read the stuff. You can't hang around with Tom Arnold. He hates Tom Arnold. He's the most powerful man in the world. Why are you doing it? And I knew Michael wasn't quite there. And I said to him, I said, I'm going to stay at this hotel until you agree to do this for your family, for the country. I went on an interview saying, Michael's doing this. And, I just wanted to, sometimes people need to push it. I said, you're in a toxic relationship with this guy. I've been in toxic relationships. You need to pull the Band-Aid out. You need to stop. There's no half measures. He's not going to do anything for you. He's not going to help you. He's not going to pay for your lawyers. If you really want to do the right thing for the country, this needs to end, and you need to go big with it. And so, a couple weeks later, he did do that, and I think he's done a great job since. But Michael was like puppy love with Trump. And when Trump didn't bring him to the White House, like he was suicidal. He would have done anything, and he did do anything. He's very, very responsible for Trump being president. He went to Jerry Falwell Jr. and said, remember that sex thing with the pool boy and your wife and you, the pictures that I fixed? Well, I still got one of the pictures. And I want you to support my boss, Donald Trump. And he did. And even though he's an evangelical, he went, this is bad. I'm going to support Donald Trump full in. I'm going to say Donald Trump is like Jesus. I'm going to do this. So Michael Cohen was responsible for all of that stuff. And he really considered himself part of the Trump family. And that just wasn't the case. So it took him longer to learn than most people. I mean, Trump was so mean to Michael Cohen. He would put him down all the time in front of everybody, like he does Don Jr. And he'd say, I don't want to pay you. I'm cutting even though you've done all this great work, I'm going to cut your salary in half. And I think by the end, with the Stormy Daniels thing, he's like, I need to make a tape of this because otherwise he's not going to pay me back.
Right. That's exactly why he did it, to kind of memorialize what the action statement was. Yeah, that's wild. I mean, it's interesting, Tom, you're one of those guys who you came up through Hollywood as a comedian, as a writer, as a producer, and yet you have cross-pollinated with all of these people who are of immense significance in politics and in our culture right now. It's a weird place you find yourself in.
I've always there's been social issues that I got behind. I'm obviously a Democrat, but the Trump thing was different because also there was a Hollywood connection, allegedly, that he's a man from Hollywood that's doing all this stuff. And I just realized how bad this is going to be. And it was shocking how many people very close to Trump would talk to me once they knew I was doing this thing. Because they're enamored with Hollywood, the political people, and we're enamored with what goes on there. So there's a cross. And when Trump started, it became, a blurred line. So they wanted to share stuff. They were aware I was taping people. They're aware I was doing all this stuff. They were taping me. I was taping them. Michael Cohen, you could hear all of our conversations. But it is shocking. And still, this week, a friend of mine, Lauren Windsor, went undercover last week at the Supreme Court. A public event, but, she goes undercover as a MAGA or a far-right Christian, and people talk to her. Judge Alito and his wife just spilled the beans to her. You can see it right now that she put it out yesterday. But it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's huge. That's a huge story. We're going to get into it the next hour. I mean, massive.
I
didn't realize that she was your friend.
I knew it was kind of very, because I have a lot of respect for what she does. And she wrote me, we talked last week, said, I'm going to have this huge story. Will you, I'm going to post something the day before. Will you quote that, help me get that post out there? And I go, yeah. And then she told me what it was with the Alitos. And so by the time it came to post yesterday, I was with my daughter. We were running around and go, I got to do a post. So I take her thing and I post, Lauren is going to the Supreme Court. I put it all, I didn't think to not put it out there. And 5 minutes later, she's like, please delete that. You've just told the whole story. I go, I thought that's what I was supposed to do. And then I did. But I'm very proud of her. And there's a lot of brave journalists, women especially, who are doing what they can to get the truth out there. And she's one.
We've created a system, sadly, Tom, and I know we only have another minute here, but we'll wrap up. But the system, especially when it comes to the Supreme Court level, is almost without check, and it's scary what these justices can now get away with, even exposed as they are.
Yeah, and it's funny because the wife is Judge Alito's wife. People are like, well, she's not a public person. She's a public person. She flies the insurrection flag publicly. She loves to talk, and she's kind of hilarious. You and I will remember Martha Mitchell, from she reminds me of Martha Mitchell, who's doing all this talking, and her husband's probably like, shut the hell up. But she loves to put it out there, and she certainly put it out there with Lauren Windsor, and so did he, and so did some of the other Supreme Court justices. Like, they have to know that people are looking, and I think that's important to have some transparency, even with the Supreme Court.
Yeah, the court has pushed back, as you know, on any kind of, they've pushed back on transparency. They pushed back on any kind of ethics considerations being handled by Congress. You know, Sheldon Whitehouse is just genius in the way he tracks dark money into the Supreme Court. And he's talked about the fact that, they have to be brought to heel, but it doesn't appear that that's going to happen. It's a real issue. And they're considering those things with, Donald Trump right now, right? They're considering J6 cases.
You got to give credit to ProPublica, the news organization that's funded. They did such great work that got the Clarence Thomas money stuff going. And then now it's like nobody can ignore it because, it's even worse than the other Supreme Court. He had to come and say, oh, I forgot to include $4 million worth of gifts. And hopefully, eventually, there is some consequences for these guys because they're bad. They're bad news.
Agreed. And obviously the court is at, low ebb when it comes to public confidence. And what's worse is they've rolled back basic freedoms for women in this country and beyond.
And they want to do more. That's the thing. They, the right wing of the Republican Party, they're not done. They want birth control. It used to be like, oh, they'll never get rid of birth control or IVF. And then they're like, we have an opportunity. We're going to get rid of all of it. We want to take women back. We want to take this country back to, the 50s. And gay marriage, forget it. And eventually, and I think Clarence Thomas should be afraid of the black people. Black people couldn't marry white people back in those days. His wife is white. He's like, well, that will never happen. Well, no, the people, maybe you won't, but the people behind you that are in front of you, they want all of that to happen. And so there's no, oh, that's exaggeration or hyperbole. There isn't with these guys. They're showing their cards, and hopefully people see that on the left, and young people and but baby boomers get out and realize this election is very important too.
Yes, and it's sad to see this Congress and this Supreme Court, more powerful than ever, really looking to turn back time that way. And because they're so out of step with America. I mean, just as the Electoral College is out of step with America. Let's continue this. Hey, Tom, where can people you do a couple of different podcasts, one with our old pal Chip Franklin, I know.
Oh, yeah, that's what I just had. We had Lauren on today, which Lauren the Wizard and Max Brooks.
Oh, that's great.
And, people. I don't know where you get that podcast on the on Twitter. I don't know, but it's on the sites and on YouTube or whatever. And then I do a Divorce Party with Monica Casey.
Oh my God, my other half, Courtney, loves that. When I told her, Courtney, Tom Arnold is on.
I like
when she was over the moon. Yeah. Nothing excites her, and she was super excited. She loves that podcast, pal.
Yeah,
so
it's great. It's been great therapy for me. I'll tell you that. It's been great. So tell Courtney, thank you, Mark. I love you.
All right, love you, Tom. Come visit again. Tom Arnold, everybody. Bye, Tom. Yeah, he's great. He's just great. He's so authentic. He's the real thing.
The Mark Thompson Show.
What is my story with David Cay Johnston? Is he, you'll let me know when he arrives?
Yeah, we'll let you know.
Okay, cool. Anything else I need to attend to before I do want to get a little bit to Alito, and I do want, Teacher Lori likes the podcast, so here's where you can find it. It's Really American is what it's called. So good stuff. And I'd love to get Sheldon Whitehouse. Yes, Katie. Maybe Kim can help make that happen. Kim is sort of the queen of booking right now. We're trying to kind of get her into that role. And so maybe Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. I love Senator Sheldon Whitehouse and wish that he would come onto this show, and his regular tracking of dark money in the courts is a rabbit hole that you should go down.
Do you want me to put him on the list?
Definitely. Absolutely.
Right. Put him on the list.
I have a question then. This is sort of a producer question for you. Do you want, because we expect David Cay Johnston in a moment.
He should be any moment. I just got an email from him saying he was having trouble with the link, so I resent it to him, and I expect him to pop in at any time.
Okay, so in that case, I want to visit. I'm sorry. I
was going to say, do something quick that you can get out of.
Yeah, I will. But it's kind of related, and it's sort of important, and I think it relates to media messaging, and so I do it quickly, but it's something worth noting. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
You know, I talk a lot about, and we talk a lot about both on the radio show, and now that we're over here on YouTube and across podcast platforms, about the power of messaging and how media really drives the message. That's why in this information age, we are handling a loaded weapon. And one of the most powerful weapons for voters anyway, because it's still the case that the older demographic tends to vote and watch television. So those companies that own the most television stations, they wield some of the biggest weapons. And so it is with Sinclair Broadcasting. They own a bunch of stations across the country, a lot. And they now have their local television news broadcasters on Sinclair reading the same script, sort of reading and singing from the same hymnal when it comes to Joe Biden's mental acuity. And it's a coordinated effort across their 185 local television stations. They air a segment from a national correspondent citing that Wall Street Journal article. The Wall Street Journal article has been debunked. They cherry-picked quotes from right-wingers, and they try to run down Biden's mental acuity. Well, Sinclair, as I say, they own almost 200 television stations across America. They ran this piece, which is just a reconstitution of the Wall Street Journal piece. They ran it across their stations. And, you know, again, they are donors to Republican causes. They are massive right-wingers. And in this way, they continue to carry the torch for the Wall Street Journal and that hit piece, for right-wingers who are trying to pursue the argument that Joe Biden doesn't have the stuff mentally to be president of the United States. And the more they beat that drum, the more it gets through. And you hear it over and over and over in polls. People respond to it. So I mention it because, again, it's the power of the media and the power of the local stations. And once we've allowed one company to own so many stations, it's all part of this media deregulation that hit in the 90s. That horse, I'm afraid, is out of the barn, but watch for it because it will affect elections. So, David is here, correct?
Yes, sir.
So,
yes, he is.
All right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
What a day to be talking to him. He's the Pulitzer Prize winner and multiple best-selling author, the co-founder of DC Report. Here he is, David Cay Johnston, everyone.
Hello, Mark.
Wow, what a day, sir. You know, I'm going to start with the verdict that was handed down. Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, found guilty. First of all, I promised everyone that I would ask you, do you think he will actually do time?
I don't know. I cannot say. Had Hunter Biden not sent an email that the government got off his electronics 2 days after the purchase of the gun saying he was getting drugs, he might have had reasonable doubt because he'd just come out of a rehabilitation place. In alcoholic terms, he dried out. And so you could make an argument that, well, he felt he wasn't an addict anymore. He was clean. But if 2 days later, you know, you're working with a drug dealer, that defense just doesn't work. So I don't know. There's no accusation that he did anything with the gun. He only had it for 11 days. So I would be surprised if he gets a jail time, but, you know, he may.
And to the pardon, when asked about pardoning his son last week at the D-Day commemoration, the president was, you know, he's firm on it. No, not going to pardon him.
Well, Mark, here's the difference, a stark difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Donald Trump is calling the people who attacked our Capitol heroes and saying he's going to pardon them and saying he's going to immediately have the Trump Justice Department go after his enemies. Joe Biden says, my duty as president is to appoint the Attorney General of the United States and then to keep my hands off. If he's unhappy, he can fire the Attorney General who serves at his pleasure. So, no, he's not going to pardon his son. And if his son goes to prison, even if it's manifestly unfair given the circumstances, he's not doing anything about it. You break the law, you take the risks that go with breaking the law. We had in Western New York some nuns protesting the nuclear missile silos near Syracuse a few years ago.
I remember that, yeah.
And they, to make a point, brought bolt cutters. I don't think they actually cut the padlock chain off the locks. Like this is how we protect our nuclear arsenal. It's also symbolic, stay away. But these were nuns. They actually got prison time. So he has a second trial coming up.
Right.
And the second trial is for income tax fraud. We only convict about 500 people a year. Remember, there's over 160 million individual tax returns. About 500 people a year, a tiny, tiny number of a primary tax charge. And of those, almost all of them are in one of three categories, especially the first two: drug dealers, politicians who take bribes, and then occasionally the business person who paid the bribe. And if you paid the taxes, and Hunter Biden has paid the taxes, the penalties, and the interest, nobody gets jail for that. So that's a case where I would be very surprised if he got the jail time. But the gun charge, not so sure about that.
And now to these revelations around Alito and his wife. Tony, do you have I was just going to play it for everyone who might have missed it, just as a quick. This is the recording made of the Supreme Court Justice Alito, and his wife will follow. Lauren Windsor is someone who has essentially, she's a documentarian who begins these conversations and kind of, it would seem, you'll see that back and forth, but that's who Lauren Windsor is. Here we go. Go, Tony.
As a Catholic and as someone who really cherishes my faith, I don't know that we can negotiate with the left in the way that needs to happen for the polarization to end. I think that it's a matter of winning.
I think you're probably right. I think one side or the other is going to win. I don't know. I mean, there can be a way of working, a way of living together peacefully, but it's difficult, because there are differences on fundamental things that really can't be compromised. They really can't be compromised. So it's not like we're going to split the difference.
I think that the solution really is winning the moral argument. People in this country who believe in God have got to keep fighting for that, to return our country to a place of godliness.
Oh, I agree with you.
This is something that we've known. I mean, we've known how he feels about this, that this is sort of this is their religious jihad, the Christian right. Can you speak to this? I also wondered if you would touch on the way in which this recording was made, whether you're okay with that.
Well, let's deal with the first part. Justice Roberts was essentially asked the same questions, and he gave a much more appropriate answer. Not as good an answer as I would like, but he said, no, that's not our job. If that's what you want, you go to the legislature. And by the way, lots of people in this country are Muslims and Jews. He didn't say non-believers or anything else. But he stayed in his lane, however imperfectly. Alito makes it very clear that he is a jihadist for the people who completely ahistorically think we're a Christian nation. I mean, our Constitution is very explicit that we're not a religion of any kind. And a number of the founding fathers were deists. That is, they believed this theory that, well, if there is a God, he wound the watch up and let it go. And they clearly were very against any state religion. We've already, I think, gone way too far in this country with that. And so Alito's testimony and the comments his wife made to this individual are deeply disturbing and revelatory that he has no respect for his oath of office. That should be our concern, that he disrespects his oath of office. And now we know that that's on top of lying. I mean, his whole story about his wife and the flags is so patently not true, especially with the reporting that's been done with the neighbors and what was going on. It's just not true. As to how the recording was obtained, I'm not a fan of undercover journalism as a general rule, but I'm not totally against it. I've done some on occasion, not a lot. But if you are a justice of the Supreme Court and you're speaking in anywhere, you should assume that you're being recorded. The fact that you are being recorded may make you socially uncomfortable and inhibit what you're going to say, but you should operate on that principle.
At minimum, that your comments are going to be repeated.
Yes. Yeah. People are going to say you said this or that. And we've had people do that. I have a friend who was invited to dinner once at the home of Chief Justice Berger. And he was absolutely dumbfounded that throughout the dinner, Justice Berger would say, now, ladies, now, gentlemen. And then the room divided and all the men went into another room and the women into a different room after the dinner for conversation. And he just was dumbfounded at the sort of 19th century and earlier social process that went on. But we had a real problem here. Now, we should also mention Clarence Thomas. There's a chart out there on the internet of all the gifts received by Supreme Court justices, and it's nothing, 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 line you can barely see, a very short little line. And then Thomas, $4 million that he's disclosed. God only knows how much the actual total is. And I don't understand, and I hope there is if there isn't, there should be a grand jury investigation of him. We don't need to impeach him. If the size of the gifts that he's taken, there should be some kind of quid pro quo evidence. But remember, the U.S. Supreme Court has virtually legalized bribing public officials, which would include Supreme Court justices, because in the McDonnell case, the governor of Virginia, who the governor and his wife got shopping sprees and Rolex watches and the use of a $400,000 or so very expensive sports car. And the Supreme Court said that, well, yes, the governor helped the business in many ways, but there was no absolute direct quid pro quo. I'll give you this money and you do this official act. Well, so now it's just a wink and a nod. And
there's the chart.
Yeah,
Thank Tony.
That's a great chart that MSNBC created. So even with what amounts to the legalization of bribing public officials, unless you're an idiot, unless you're so stupid as to say, well, add this bill or take this administrative action and here's the cash. Anything short of that is not a crime, the Supreme Court says. How about a rule that says if you're a justice of the United States Supreme Court, you may not receive any gift worth more than $100 and you have to disclose who you got it from immediately?
Sure. I mean, why not have the same transparency and demands that you put on other legislators who, occupy Capitol Hill?
Yeah.
He's now, I was just looking for the quote, but Thomas is now admitting that he should have released some of the information around these, the billionaire donors'
and so
gifts.
Thomas knowingly lied on these forms for years. he also has a tax issue here. Either he or Harlan Crow over the $267,000, what I call the bribe mobile. And
I love the branding.
Yeah. And, Sheldon Whitehouse, the senior senator from Rhode Island, has a great line, which is the highest court in the land shouldn't have the lowest ethics. Everybody is subject to ethics rules except the Supreme Court. The canons of judicial ethics, which I went and read when all this went up to refresh my memory, absolutely show that both Alito and Thomas, for the two different reasons, are not in compliance with the rules. And we shouldn't have to impeach to remove them. But what I expect will happen, once we get a significant majority, to put it in the terms of Justice Alito, once one side or the other wins, if the side that believes in the Constitution and freedom and liberty as opposed to the American Taliban side that he's on, if they win, we need to increase the Supreme Court to 13 or 15 judges, in part because Chief Justice Roberts says there's too much work for the court to do. We needed a lot more other federal judges. And we also need to pass absolute strict ethical conduct for justices. And a measure to remove them if that's the case.
You talked about this once before, but I wonder if you could just review. And it's funny, just as an aside, in the run-up to 2020, all you heard about is that the Democrats are going to stack the courts. Democrats are going to stack the courts. To me, it was so rich that they would make that argument, in the shadow of having just stacked the court. But what's involved in expanding the court?
That's just passing a piece of legislation. Yeah. The Supreme Court size is not set under the Constitution, and it can be whatever the Congress makes it to be. And I would argue that you don't want to go to 11 because, among other things, there are 13 inferior courts that need a supervising judge. Nobody should have to double up. So the court should be either 13, 15, or 17 members. I think 15 is the optimal number here. I had somebody on a different show, Mark, several years ago say, oh my goodness, well, the Supreme Court building isn't big enough to house that many. And I went, gee, Washington, D.C., we can't do something because the building isn't big enough. There's a problem that's insolvable.
That's hilarious. That would be used as an argument. It's an interesting state we're in where the media message is leading right now a lot of the polling, moving on from the Supreme Court. It's just one of those things that you see over and over again. The notion somehow that the stock, half the likely voters think that the stock market is down. Half the likely voters think that inflation is worse than when the Biden administration first took office. There are a lot of lies that are out there, promulgated largely by right-wing media, Fox News, just beating that drum, but they've been swallowed by a big part of the electorate, enough of the electorate anyway, to likely make this election unclear as to its outcome.
Well, and that's because we have outfits like Sinclair, which are dedicated to being propaganda for Republicans. I would argue they're subject to a license challenge because they're not fulfilling the license requirement for their broadcast stations of serving the public interest, convenience, and necessity. And let me just digress on that issue. I'm the only journalist in American history who caused a broadcast chain to have to shut down and go out of business for violating its requirement to serve the public interest, convenience, and necessity, because they were putting up what today we call fake news. And so I have some experience in this area.
Wow.
If you're only watching places like Newsmax, Breitbart, and you believe they're the only source of truth, of course you believe these stupid things. I'm not sure how deep that goes. I mean, one of the things that pollsters release all their detail. And I have looked at a few of these polls, and I was primarily struck by the fact that when asked not, are you for Trump or for Biden, but related questions like how would a Trump criminal conviction affect you? A lot of Trump support slips away. Jennifer Rubin of the Washington Post, who is a lawyer, Stanford educated, and a conservative, an authentic, actual conservative, has an excellent column in today's Washington Post. I think it's outside the payroll, but a paywall, but because I'm a subscriber, I can't tell you for sure. It has a picture of my friend Danelle Morton's Trump chicken in the prison garb on the top. When Trump was holding his Predators ball in San Francisco, she raised just enough money to hire this boat. They inflated the chicken.
Oh yeah, it was prominently featured on this show on multiple days. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's all the genius of my a journalist I trained and have worked with and have known for
that's awesome.
Almost 50 years. Danelle Morton, just fabulous reporter. And they're trying now to raise money to take the Trump chicken to the mall in front of the Capitol.
Oh, that's great.
And Trump cannot deal with any humor about himself. So everything possible to mock him will be smart.
Yeah, it does land with him, doesn't it, David Cay Johnston? It does land on him.
Yeah, and I think I'm not sure if I mentioned this on your show, but I mean, my sort of fantasy dream is that Trump actually comes to the debate, and Joe Biden drops to the floor and does one-arm push-ups like Jack Palance at the 1992 Oscars. And when Donald, of course, who couldn't do it, he can get back up, stand in front of the microphone and say, well, Donald, it's okay. You can use two arms. And hopefully it would illustrate to people, how Trump not only has no sense of humor, but he's in terrible physical shape.
Yeah, well, of course, that's true. And I don't know. There was a piece in the Post, I want to say, gosh, I can't remember now, that I thought was really quite good about how this focus on the focus on mental acuity is decent, but the notion somehow that Biden isn't up to the task is based completely, again, on, the first thing we were talking about, media. Media like somebody who gives them a quick repartee, has a quick turn of the phrase. It's as though we're auditioning for game show hosts instead of auditioning for someone who has an earnest interest in the briefings, who will review very complex and delicate balances internationally and domestically, and then help make decisions in a collaborative way. None of those things reflect Donald Trump. All of those things reflect Biden.
Right. And, somebody should make an advertisement that shows Trump as a boy in a schoolyard where he's being, given a hard time, bullied by some other boys. And he goes, boy, you're going to pay when I get to the White House. Because it's like, I'm sorry, you please elect me to the White House so I can go after my enemies.
Yeah, it's
what basis is that for voting for him? And if you believe, and there are people who clearly do, that Trump being our dictator would be a good thing, you just don't know anything about history. You don't know anything about what happens to dictators. All dictators ultimately have to start killing people around them to maintain power. Or as I put it, down that path lead firing squads. And given what Donald said, including that he hates me more than any other journalist, though I suspect he's probably said that of others as well, he gets back into power, he'll try to find some way to, at some point, arrest me. I may not be on day one, but
there's going to be a waiting list, David. I would not worry. There's going to be quite the waiting list. But look, I have 30 more. I'm actually over my time. All right. I love our time. When we come together next week, I'd love to ask you about the rise of the right in the world. It just seems as though it's a scary time, and I think it's happening across
Big
Europe.
Social force all around the world. I agree.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next time.
All right.
Look for David's stuff across, and you can look for David's face across the world of television. And I appreciate always our time, my friend. David Cay Johnston, everybody. Bye-bye, David.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I get talking to him, and then before I know it, the time is over.
I
did want to...
I talk to him forever.
What's that?
I said we could talk to him forever.
He's just the best. But I wanted to just respond to this. I know he's just being a little bit this way, but you are right, Randy. Let's be accurate here. The Republicans didn't, quote, stack the court. They made nominations, which we don't agree with, within the current number of justices. Yeah, you're right. I should have said load the court instead of stack the court. By the way, when they say stack the court, they might mean exactly what I mean when I said stack the court or load the court. But I think what we wanted to say was expand the court or stack the court. is typically thought to be adding justices, members of the court. So you're right, and I should have said load the court. But it's odd that they always talk about the. You can get rid of that. There you go. They always talk about that, but the reality is that the loading of the court is, well, we're living it every day now. Talk to women in America if you need more evidence of that. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
This guy, I have no idea where he is. He's somewhere in the West. He is the longtime writer for USA Today on technology, and then he flipped USA to the bird. See you in the rear view. I'm going to start my own YouTube channel and my own Substack. He's done both. He's the great Jefferson Graham. Jeff, where are you?
I'm in Cokeville, Wyoming. We have
Cokeville, Wyoming.
Yes.
And prior to Cokeville, Wyoming,
yeah,
Jeff made a stop in Idaho. Tony, do you have the Idaho video? No? Here we go. This is Jefferson Graham in Idaho.
Reporting live from just outside Driggs, Idaho. Did you know that the Mark Thompson Show has many huge fans here in Driggs? I'd like to introduce you to one of them. Come on in.
Now, this is going to be a, you want to reload it somehow,
Say hi to
Tony?
Mark.
Hi, Mark. Hi, Kim. Hi, Courtney and Albert, Tony. So,
you watch the show all the time? You listen to the show?
Yeah. Yes.
Tell Mark all about it.
Oh, Mark, it's awesome. Yeah. We, Steve and I, who you've seen on the meetups, have just really enjoyed your shows over the years. He would be here with me having coffee and treats with Jeff, and but he's got COVID, so he's at home. But I've had a great time with Jeff and learning what he's seen here in Idaho. Is a place that's very special to us. Now that he's seen it, it's your turn to come and visit as well, all of you.
And you have a special invitation for Kim and Mark and everybody.
Yeah,
Tell them all
sure.
about it.
Okay, so we have a home. It's not huge, but it's way bigger than we need. And so if you ever want to come, let us know. I'm a decent cook, and lots of fun things to do in the summer or winter. I have a ski hill 10 minutes away. So
that would be great.
Jeff and Debbie from Driggs, Idaho. Bye-bye.
All right. Love it. Thank you, guys. That was a lot of fun. Wow. How did you end up? We know Debbie because she's very active in our support community. How did you end up connecting with her?
Okay, well, first of all, I want a new title. I want to be known as the special correspondent for the Mark Thompson Show. Okay?
We can have a meeting on that. Absolutely.
Only do remotes from places like this. Okay? And anyway, Debbie.
Love the hat. Hope your friend gets over the COVID. What happened? We lost him?
There he is.
Yeah.
Email address.
His signal is, go ahead. We lost you.
For a second, but I'm
yeah.
still here. Anyway,
Okay.
She did a search for me. She found my email. She emailed me and said, I'd love to get together when you're in town. And I said, sure, I'd love to do it. And it turned out we were staying about 6 miles from her in Victor, Idaho.
Oh, that's super cool, as noted by Maud. Yes, very cool.
And it's the Teton Valley. It's the other side of the Grand Teton National Park. And Jackson Hole is where most people go. But if you're cheap like I am, you don't want to spend $400 to $500 a night to stay in Jackson Hole. You go over the pass and you stay in the Teton Valley, which is way cheaper. But there's this massive accident happened, and the pass sort of fell apart. And that 45-minute drive is now 2 hours. Is a giant workaround, and they're massively trying to fix this thing, and it's really affecting this small town.
Oh yeah, no, we had the story yesterday. That's right.
Yeah, all this business that they were looking forward to. We were at the Butter Cafe this morning at 9 o'clock. They told us it would have been a 30-minute wait to get in had the pass been open.
Wow, pretty wild. And that was because of weather. It eroded away. I mean, the thing collapsed. Right?
Yeah, it's like Big Sur. It's like Malibu. It just.
So what's next? What's your next stop, Jeff?
Okay, so from here, now, first of all, the reason I'm in Cokeville, Wyoming is that I passed our cafe and I said, they might have a Wi-Fi signal that I could talk to Mark on. Because as I was driving down the road, nothing. Okay, how am I going to do this? And so luckily they have a Wi-Fi signal and I'm right behind them. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, there you go.
There's the cafe. And I'm driving to Park City, Utah. And then from there, Zion National Park on the weekend. And then home. And I start editing video on Sunday.
I love
For Father's Day, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. You does your family still do a big thing for Father's Day for you, or are they kind of over it?
Over it. If I was to do anything on Sunday, I'd say hi to my mom. So I'd make Father's Day Mother's Day.
That's just the coolest. She's in San Francisco?
No, she's in LA.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Can I quickly give you 2 seconds on Apple's AI that they've announced?
Yeah, please do. We're
yesterday?
getting a little garble with your audio, so that's why I may have to just wrap it up, but go ahead.
Okay. They made all these announcements about cool things that you can do with AI, but the bottom line that people aren't saying is you need to buy a new phone. If you want to do any of them, you'll need to buy a new phone. And used to be they updated the software and it worked on the older phones. Not going to happen this year. So money, money, money.
Wow. Yeah, well, some of us need a new phone, so maybe it'll work out. But yeah, that's not cool. Mr. Graham gets it. Sunday is for baseball and mom, says Michael. Yeah, Wyoming is beautiful country, says OCB. Hi, Jeff. Thought you might be in Park City by now, says Debbie.
A little later.
I absolutely hate being out in the sticks where Jefferson is, says Vicky. Well, we love our time with you. JeffersonGraham.substack.com. A lot of great tips and a lot of great video embedded in all of that. But Photo Walks TV, the YouTube series, is so much fun. And if you can't travel, as many of us cannot, it's a great way to experience travel. And we love our visits with you. Get home soon and safely, and let's visit next week.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Jefferson Graham, everybody.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
He is a fun guy. I'm loving my Jefferson Graham. You know that.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I have news for you. First of all, I have news of a booking. Next week, I'm not sure if it'll be Monday or Tuesday, but Bobby Slayton will join us, the comedian and Bay Area regular. Used to be the MC at a place called the Punchline in downtown San Francisco, which was sort of the room in San Francisco at the time.
Wow,
and
Tom Arnold this week and Bobby Slayton next week.
Yeah, a little...
this place is kind of...
popping.
Yeah.
But I am even... I don't mean to compare guests, and I please don't quote me, but I'm even more excited about tomorrow's guest. That's Ari Berman, because we're going to talk about the Electoral College. And I know that I thought I saw a comment about the Electoral College. It gives, rural counties and rural communities the voice they need. And obviously the Electoral College has hijacked the presidential race, and in so doing has hijacked policy, and in so doing has hijacked America. It is a poison in our presidential system, but don't take my word for it. Take an X-ray of the whole thing. Look how it works. Look at how elections work in America, and then let's have a conversation. Ari Berman has written a book about it. He's a brilliant journalist, and as I say, I am extremely excited about having him in tomorrow. And now, normally, this is where Kim would say, yeah, we'll have a problem with Ari. He's not going to be here tomorrow.
No. So far, fingers crossed, we're on track.
Good. Yeah. So I am excited about that. That will be tomorrow. And what hour is he in?
I believe it's 12:05, I think.
Okay, so that's the second hour of the show. Let's get some news. I'll be right here commenting on those things that are going on in the world. Kim's News, and we continue. Smash the like button.
Smashed it
Haven't
with
really
your iron rod.
hit you hard today on smashing the like button. We do need your likes in the world of YouTube. It helps in that algorithm. And also, if you'd consider subscribing, that'd be great. It's free. You subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you will know whenever we have a new video or anything else on the channel. We will drop some stuff on the channel that doesn't appear on the main show. That way you will know about that. So, thank you for being here. Kim's News, and we continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. Of course, we've been talking about Hunter Biden all morning after the conviction on all 3 counts in his federal firearms trial. The president's son charged for illegally buying and possessing a gun while being addicted to drugs in 2018. He faces up to 25 years in prison, but sentencing guidelines typically call for lighter punishment for a first-time offender. This is the first time the child of a sitting U.S. president has stood trial. The federal prosecutor in charge of the Biden gun trial, Hunter Biden gun trial, says the case was not about addiction. After that guilty verdict was announced today, the Justice Department special counsel David Weiss says it was about the illegal choices Hunter Biden made while using drugs. Weiss said no one is above the law, then added Hunter Biden should not be more accountable than any other citizen for this conduct. He also thanked President Biden for letting the investigation play out without any interference. Voters in South Carolina, Nevada, North Dakota, and Maine are all heading to the polls today for primaries. While presidential primaries have wrapped up, the candidates for some key down-ballot races will still be decided. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg will testify before Congress the day after former President Trump's sentencing in his criminal hush money case. Bragg set to appear before the Republican-led House Judiciary Committee July 12th, along with one of the top prosecutors in the case. Republicans claim Bragg carried out an unprecedented abuse of prosecutorial authority, and the case was politically motivated. Joey Chestnut banned from the Nathan's 4th of July hot dog eating contest after signing with a rival wiener brand. Oh no, the scandal. According to the New York Post, the 16-time champ inked a deal with plant-based food brand Impossible Foods. Nathan's reportedly paid Chestnut $200,000 for last year's appearance and had offered him a 4-year contract worth $1.2 million. Who knew shoving so many hot dogs down your gullet was so lucrative? Wow. Yeah. I guess it's a bad scene.
It sounds like such a gourmet experience when you say shove it down your gullet.
Well, that's what he's doing. Have you watched
You're right.
it?
It almost, it really is just that.
Gross. Yeah. I guess it's bad form when the meat company is paying you and you sign on with the plant-based company. Not looking good. Yeah. The Los Angeles City Council wants more power to regulate autonomous vehicles in the city. During a meeting today, the council members are expected to consider recommendations to monitor driverless cars. They'll also consider backing 3 state laws that provide cities with regulatory powers. Here it is. Here's your story, Mark. A California college is the first in the nation to study the science of coffee. I wonder if they're going to have Coachella Valley on their list of studies. UC Davis has a new research center with 50-plus faculty members from various departments. The chancellor says, think of it as a hub of all things coffee. The facility was created out of a popular elective course and aims to use cutting-edge technology to learn about all aspects of coffee, from green bean storage to brewing to experimental preparation methods as well. Yeah, they need to have Cliff as a special guest lecturer.
They do. They need the roast master general there at Coachella Valley Coffee. That's right.
There is look at that. UC Davis Coffee Center opens.
Look at you, Tony. Very
Tony.
Impressive how you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Imagine how good it would smell in that building.
Oh my God!
Put
you walk
that
in,
coffee down.
Ooh.
Okay, well,
I mean, always the whole place. They probably have in the lobby, multiple fresh brews going. It's probably better than.
It's the way that Coachella Valley Coffee's lobby is. It's like it's got the aroma. Yeah.
Nice. There is a California casino giving free tickets to anyone who saw George Lopez there. The comedian and actor walked out of his sold-out show in Porterville last Friday.
What?
30 minutes early. He claims guests were unruly, but Eagle Mountain Casino confirms his security team never escorted anyone out of the venue. So they say Lopez let his fans down. So as an apology, everyone gets a full refund and can come back to watch another show this year for free.
Wow, that's not bad.
Yeah, I like that.
But George Lopez is very funny. But
he
I
is
guess
very
he doesn't.
funny. He wasn't
I guess
happy
things
with
didn't
the
work
audience.
out for his. Yeah.
Too much heckling. An honor, I'll end it this way, for a friend of the show, friend of Mark Thompson, late KTLA entertainment anchor Sam Rubin. The Television Academy plans to honor him in a major way. Chris Abrego, chairman of the Television Academy, making a special announcement. He made that on KTLA this morning. He revealed that Sam Rubin will be posthumously receiving the 76th Los Angeles Area Emmy Governor's Award, which is a way for them to recognize his legacy of more than 3 decades of entertainment news reporting for KTLA. So,
wow,
kudos.
that's very
there.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
Really sad that Sammy's not around anymore. What a great guy and a great loss for media generally.
I was reading another story about Mr. Rubin and honors for him, and his family supported this autism program at UCLA, and they now have a special scholarship in his name as well. So
that's terrific.
A lot
that
of
really
honors
is
coming
terrific.
in.
That's
Yeah.
These are the legacies we have to hope for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This report, sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. You say smash it with your iron rod. You type it. You say it. You get 10% off. Boom,
Smash
right
it
there.
with your iron rod.
You can email it to rich@tenutavineyard.com. You can call him at 925-699-4576. Either way you do it, you're going to get your 10% off. I should note that Father's Day, they've got a big event at Tenuta Vineyards, June 16th. They've got catered food available. So email Rich to check in with that. You can even get a custom wine label with you and your dad, or just your dad or family, or
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, whip it into shape, apparently.
Whip it up, kid.
And so, again, it's rich@tenutavineyard.com. The website is tenutawinery.com. So if you want to check out all the wines available, if you want to look at that before you call and place your order, that's the way to do it. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is... Ooh, look at how pretty the winery is.
It
so
is
nice.
so pretty, particularly this time of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Really, really nice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Feels great. When they raided Mar-a-Lago, God didn't like that.
What up, everybody? It is an exciting day. It's only Tuesday, great week ahead, and it's Rudy Giuliani Day here on the show. You got a glimpse of Rudy. The Rude Man is knocking down a solid, I know people aren't going to like me saying this, but it's a solid booking photo. He's got the tie on. He's got the American flag pin, lapel pin. He's got that funky smile.
I'm giving it a 10. A 10.
You're giving it a 10?
Yeah, that's a 10. He looks like a villain, like a Joker kind of villain.
Wow.
Doesn't he? Look at the smirk,
well,
the weird little smirky smile.
Yeah, he does look like a villain. And he may, I don't think you can tell a villain by the way they look, but you're right. If you were picking a villain based on look, he is knocking it down. It is, I think, only a 5, though.
What?
Well, I'll tell you why. I take points off for the lack of eye contact. He is not making eye contact with the camera. Chin down, which is, again, that's a no-no. And so when you take that into account, Calvin, who is the shadow producer of this show, Calvin
4.
Long, 4.
Wow, Calvin.
I'll give him a 5, but that's as high as I'll go. Again, no eye contact, chin
this is
down.
Good stuff. I mean,
but
I think that's way too low. Yeah.
Kim likes that. She likes that You know, too much forehead, says Lensman. It's a 6 from Lensman. And again, if you're new, this is the booking photo scale that we impose here. We evaluate and attach a numerical value to all booking photos, and we don't make any exceptions. So Rudy does have to, again, sit under the scrutiny of our audience. Vilma has it as a 6.
It's much better than the last booking photo. I mean, you know.
A solid 2, says Vlaka. And Chris, who, of course, wants to make an excuse for Rudy because they used to carpool together. Chris says the camera mark is mounted 8 feet above him. So you can't look up? I don't care where the camera's mounted. You need to look up for your photo. This is it. Look, he's looking at the camera there in his last booking photo.
That's Georgia. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
in Georgia.
He's going to have a booking photo in every state pretty soon.
This photo stole my soul. A 6, says Heather. Cops are bad photographers, says Chris. Chris likes to make excuses for his for his pal Rudy. No 10, though, Kim, says Vilma. Please.
No? Come on. Can you not? He looks like the Joker.
Yeah, that doesn't mean it's a 10, but maybe. Look, I'm not. You're allowed to assign whatever value you want. I don't at all.
I love this one. It speaks
who said
to me.
this? A 4 could be an ad for wearing sunscreen, says Bruce. The bottom of the chin is right at the bottom of the pick. Yeah, it's a 3, says Portions Redacted. That insults the Joker, Kim, to call him. Yeah. Ultra villainous, says Pietro. An 8 is what Pietro gives him.
That's right, Pietro. Right
More
on,
like
brother.
Montgomery Burns, says Michael Reich.
It really is.
Anyway, I just think Chris is saying that they should hire real photographers, the cops. Well, you know, Chris, maybe you could work on that in between all your other stuff. Hey, Tony, can I quickly do a That's Rich to kind of give everybody a palate cleanser from today's show to finish out what we're doing? We like to follow big money, some of the high-profile people who have the big money. We do it in a segment we call That's Rich.
Who are they?
The top 1/10 of 1%.
What are they like?
These people are so posh and snobby, they're snotty.
That's Rich on the Mark Thompson Show.
Well, he's so cute. Even as he gets older, he just gets cuter. I'm talking about Tom Brady, everybody. He is everybody's favorite, greatest of all time, rebranding himself as a movie mogul. And he's doing so in one of Los Angeles' most exclusive neighborhoods. I'm talking about Brentwood, California. And if you want to see pictures of his new place, Tony, you can share them. They're there in the rundown on the click-through. Look at that. Tony is so good. Even as Tony is sick, he is still good.
Thanks, Tony.
Much of the property is a work in progress, including the rear garden and outdoor pool. But the home does make good use, they say, of the famous Southern California sun, an array of solar panels, and a glass atrium. It is 14,000 square feet. The 46-year-old is divorced, I'll remind you. He is single and he's ready to mingle, ladies. I don't need to tell you that he is handsome and rich.
I thought he had that girlfriend. Remember we showed a picture of her?
Kind of remember it. He had a wife, Giselle.
Yeah, and then he had like some girlfriend that looked like, you know, she was a very nice looking woman.
Oh, what a surprise that is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's got 3 kids, and the 46-year-old is now single, apparently maybe with a girl from time to time. Maybe it's the same girl. Maybe he's, knocking around. He is not new to Brentwood because he and former wife Giselle paid $11.75 million for land which was used to build a mansion that they sold to rapper Dr. Dre for $40 million. Wow. So the neighborhood went from famous to infamous in 1994 because this is the neighborhood where O.J. lived.
What?
Yeah. And the Brentwood Mansion is just one of Brady's major construction projects that he is working on now. He has more. He's launching another career as an in-game commentator for Fox Sports, as you're probably aware.
It looks like a hotel.
It does. It's a very nice hotel. If you're listening and not watching, I recommend that you jump over to YouTube and take a quick look at it here. We have the pictures up. He is also completing a mansion somewhere else. We told you about this in another installment of That's Rich. That's on Miami's billionaire bunker. Remember that island that is it Fisher Island? Is that what it's called? But Tom Brady is completing his mansion there at the same time. So he is no stranger to a healthy lifestyle. He has a new brand. As you know, last couple of years, he's launched the TB12 brand. It's a plant-based diet mostly, and a number of anti-inflammatory foods. Tony is showing you all of the pictures of his place. So congratulations, Tom Brady, on this new place. And he's reportedly worth, now this is kind of interesting. How much do you think Tom Brady is worth, according to public reports? What is Tom Brady, the greatest of all time? What is he worth? His net worth?
Well,
Anybody?
It's not just the massive contracts, it's also all of the endorsement deals, right?
That's right. He's got it coming everywhere. The revenue streams are significant.
$750 million.
$750 million.
He just went through a divorce, so we had to cut it in half.
Any other guesses? 110 million, says Kathleen. 400 million, says shadow producer Calvin Wong. The answer is well over 500 million. So we don't have a specific,
okay,
but I will give it to Kim as likely correct. He's buying property and mansions, none of which are less than $12 million. So, and he's buying them up like, you know, like you buy up candy bars before you go on a long trip. So, no, there you have it. 678 million, says John. That may be right. Anyway, nice crib. Good luck to Tom Brady as he turns over a new page in his expanding life as a single man with money and a couple of cribs. That's rich.
More on how the other half lives.
These people aren't just rich, they're crazy rich.
Next time on The Mark Thompson Show.
I cannot believe it. I don't like it. But I look forward to tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be a great show. We will talk more about the Hunter Biden situation. By then, I think there'll be significant reporting and likely on-the-record reporting about what will likely happen with Hunter Biden. So we'll speak about that. It's particularly high profile, obviously, because Hunter Biden and the entire guilty verdict comes on the heels of the guilty verdict for the former president. So it's interesting always to see how all of this will be churned out in public media. Kim is getting started on the After Party Live over on the After Party Live channel.
We'll do it live.
And I'll remind you that
we'll do it live.
tomorrow, Ari Berman, the author and journalist, it will be a great
I'm
conversation.
Shadow Stevens for The Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Please join us. Thanks for all the love and support you show the show.
Bye-bye.
It really does matter. We'll see you tomorrow. And until then, bye-bye.